This edition of Up Close with Colin Thompson is brought to you by Windows Group of Companies. Why go anywhere else?
Welcome back. LeiLanni, we touched on the mental aspect of sport, and obviously, it can get very tough, very demanding, very stressful for athletes. How does one, playing at your level, cope with that?
I think definitely like when it comes with this whole, I think it's definitely been a topic that's getting a lot more widespread attention than it typically does. You have your high profile athletes, like you have Simone Biles coming out and stepping out of the Olympics because of mental health and these different things. And I think just being an athlete and being someone who's been a part of it for a long time, it's you get one aspect of it when you're not playing at a high level, who are like, oh, she's an athlete, she's had this experience, she should be able to overcome these, and she's like, that's her job. And I think on the other hand of it, it's like unless you're in it, it's hard to explain it, if that makes sense. And I think like at this level, you hold yourself and you have so much accountability for yourself, and you hold yourself to such high standards that when you're not performing at that standard, it can be extremely discouraging. And I think like one thing for me is just understanding that, like, just trusting the process and understanding that you're in this position for a reason. And I think that's one thing that I would tell like people coming up who are maybe like questioning if they should do this or if they're good enough for this. It's just understanding that, like I said, and I mentioned before, like things are temporary, and what you're feeling is temporary, and it's just giving yourself the time to be able to be, because once I feel like the mental part of the game is more important than the physical aspects get more as you like get more into like the high level competition. Like if you go into a game and you're focused on the mistakes that you make, that's going to dictate how you're going to play in the future. And I think that's something that I was doing. I was so focused on the mistakes that I was making that it was actually hindering my next pass, my next shot, my next decision. And I had to get out of my head. And that's something that I definitely prided myself on coming off of last season. It's just going into the game and just understanding that I will make mistakes, but getting over that as quickly as possible and not letting it, you know, weigh me down or stay in my head for too long, because that's ultimately you're fighting yourself and you're not giving yourself any chance of overcoming or trying to, do something better than or fix the mistake that you did. So I definitely think it's an area that I think just a lot more people just need to talk about. And just I feel like once more people share their experiences, it will get more like a lot more attention. But it's just being transparent with how you look at it, and not just like, at the end of the day, athletes are people. They're human beings just like everyone else walking down the street. So they go through stuff too, just like how everyone goes through stuff. And I think it's just hard because when you're an athlete, it's sort of seemed as though when you're experiencing these things, brush it off, you have to compete, and I think that narrative is shifting slightly, but I feel like it's definitely an area that I hope gets a lot more attention, like in the future. So
We'll be back with more from LeiLanni in just a moment.
This edition of Up Close with Colin Thompson is brought to you by Windows Group of Companies. Why go anywhere else?